The other part of this discourse, I saw music critics that think they are on the same playing field as musicians when it comes to critiquing this stuff, which is a conversation that we're seeing kind of as well around the quality person. Well, Open Mike Eagle talks about it, so let me just pull this up and then we'll go from there.
Kendrick Lamar don't have a problem with you, right?
You're not Kendrick Lamar. What's the problem?
Why is his name in your mouth? I can't do the same for you. That's what I want to know.
I remember, and I said this a long time ago, I'd gotten involved in some rap discourse that was happening on Twitter. Fonte texted me like, yo, we can't talk about what we do with people that don't do it. Not only are there insights and experiences that you have within the music business that is hard to explain in casual conversation or on the internet, most of the people who are engaging in these sorts of conversations don't feel like they need proof of anything in a lot of senses. Like they feel very empowered to be very opinionated with no facts. Does this guy think he has more credibility than Lupe? Because I think that's crazy. And if that's true, then that informs this feeling that I have sometimes when I'm watching people and some of the things that they say. Like it sounds like they believe that. It sounds like they believe sitting at home, watching everything, consuming everything for a long time. I guess this guy's done a couple battles. It's almost like he's saying that the fact that there are people there to show up and listen to his opinion means he has infinite credibility. From where I sit, I have a lot of respect for rappers that have really gone through that major label process and tried to maintain any sort of integrity.
So there's a lot there, but the thing that initially stuck out with me was that we can't talk about what we do with people that don't do it. Fonte's line or message to him. So in this era, dominated by streamers, internet personalities, even us, right? Have we lost the plot if a YouTuber feels he knows more than the artist?
No. People have fans, man. You know what I mean? And I think ultimately what it is fans have access to these artists now. What I saw between Koala and Lupe was a fan talking to an artist.
Sure.
So it wasn't necessarily the same thing. It was a fan asking questions to an artist. Does it give him credibility to know more than what Lupe does? No. So, but it's I think that's all it was. It was discourse between a fan or a super fan and the artist.
I do think it exists though that some of these streamers and personalities think they have a more know-it-all about what's going on than some of these artists. I think this is a unique situation. Lupe has been hopping in a lot of streamers and people online's discourse about certain situations about what's going on. And I think they made a very good point. If you're not involved with it, how can you really critique it like that? And that actually made me kind of fall back a little bit. But I don't see anything wrong with what people have to say because it creates a conversation.
Sure.
And I think that's what Lupe is actually looking for because he wants to debate about why he thinks his point is more accurate than somebody that's never been through any of this. So, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with each other. You can kind of agree with it and you can kind of not, and I can see it from both angles.
Sure.
I think there's certain points where you just have to, like, if you on the Koala dude's side and you listening to a Lupe talk, there's just certain points where you have to shut the hell up and listen to what it is. And you have the wherewithal to know that this is coming from someone that's actually experienced what it is that I'm talking about.
Just because you have access to him does not mean that he's not quite literally one of the greatest to ever do this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. The access piece is interesting. I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I mean, it's when you talk about the access piece, this is the first time really in history that outside of maybe a journalist who's already, working for a magazine or a newspaper, to where people who consider themselves fans because they've been able to build platforms even have access to artists in this way. And I get the whole, hey, we don't talk about what we do with people who don't do what we do, but like there are whole industries that are built upon people being experts about things they've never done. That's basically what ESPN is from 9 o'clock in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon. The same thing where like Siskel and Ebert never directed or acted in the film, but you know, they were world renowned and very respected film critics. You know, so I think I can have my opinions, and maybe if an artist wants to say why my opinion either needs to be discussed or maybe completely invalid, I think that needs to be something that, you know, we're open to and listening to those conversations as well.
Yeah, because it kind of validates. Yeah, it kind of validates the reason why he wants to have conversations with these people. Because I mean, a good reporter or somebody that you're having a conversation with that is on a platform that's being viewed is about the discourse in itself. So if he feels like somebody is good enough to ask me certain questions or even debate a point for it to be entertaining, then yeah, I'm gonna have some discourse with you. So I get it. In the same token, I understand why maybe you shouldn't judge certain situations based off of experience. So like I can't, like even me talking about Lupe's Lasers album and knowing that had something to do with the label, I can't speak on it as a whole as far as what happened with that product that was put out.
Right.
I can speak on me feeling like Lupe let one slide because he was trying to get out of a deal and didn't put his all into it.
Sure.
But I don't know the back end part of it, so I can't talk about that.
Yeah. Why the product ended up what it was.
Right.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the conversation. You know, it depends on how nuanced you get. I think, you know, from one perspective, you know, like for what you said, Jay, like I can relate and I can listen to you guys talk about like what it's like to be black, and I can pay attention to it and I can be knowledgeable on it, and I could be pro-black and all these things, but I still don't know what it's like to be black. You know, like I only have my experiences from that perspective. So like, I think what Mike Eagle was kind of talking about too is like, I don't know what his Twitter conversation was really about, but there are nuances there. Like if you've never thrown a show and you're going to like have a conversation with me about throwing a show just because you've attended, we can't have the same conversation.
Yeah, and that goes on a lot.
You know, but there's a lot of stuff like that though. You know, when you talk about like, you know, when Lupe's trying to break down like why he's lyricist and all this stuff and the differences and the nuances between it, well, the reason why he can do that is because he is versed in it, because he has taken the time to study and learn this from a completely different perspective and level than somebody who just consumes it and just wants to enjoy it. And I think, you know, there's differences there, and sometimes there's overlap and sometimes it doesn't matter and sometimes it does. And I think it just kind of depends on the conversation. You know what I mean? But
I think this too, this may not necessarily go with this particular question, but I think that's what bothers me a little bit about Lupe going at Kendrick so hard, because there's so many other people that you can talk about that aren't doing it nowhere near as good as Kendrick. Yeah. You know, so that's the thing that makes me kind of frown my face, and
it kind of feels like there's a little bit of, it feels like spite. It may not be spite, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
You know, you think not Kendrick, but Lupe just doesn't want to be seen as someone who's punching down. If he were to say something about maybe those other artists who aren't.
He's acting like he is punching down a little bit.
You think so?
Well, when it comes to lyricism, he did address the art. He's a better artist than I am.
Yeah.
Why don't you mention the third person in that equation?
Who's that?
Because I think he'd have a way better argument and conversation with him as opposed to,
maybe it's also because of how like Kendrick is perceived, you know, which is not the same as J. Cole.
I think it's worse over there, just because Cole has been the one beating on his chest talking about how great of an MC he is and how much better of an MC he is than everybody, as opposed to Kendrick. Yeah. You know what I mean? Kendrick, I've heard him say he's the greatest, but
not song.
Yeah, not in the same fashion. Not in the same fashion that Cole has been saying for the past 2 to 3 years.
And he's never walked it back either. So that would kind of make sense too. It seems like he's always picking with Kendrick.
Yeah.
So
the second part of this question is having an audience give commentators more respect than the artists, right? So has the internet completely broken how we measure authority in hip hop, where metrics are now mistaken for actual cultural expertise?
To a certain extent, because we talk about in academics, there's a lot of people that would hold his thought process and what he thinks about people at a high regard, that if you were a true fan of hip hop, you wouldn't give him 2 ounces of, you know what I'm saying, paying attention to him at all. So it's like they are looking toward or looking to personalities versus the actual artist because it validates how they feel not being an actual hip hop fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see that in all spaces. I see that in the, like, even the Twitch space. You can see, like, the biggest, there's like 2 big political streamers on Twitch. One is the weirdo dude Asmongold, and the other one is Hassan Piker, and they're on diametrically opposite sides in a way. And the interesting thing is Hassan Piker has always been a live streamer that's been political. Asmongold just did video games. He's a War of Warcraft guy that just kind of merged into that space. And the interesting thing that happened is because of his big fandom and the stuff that he started to grift to start talk about, now he's got a bunch of people that will rock with whatever he says simply because he has people that rock with him. It's like, it's the whole idea of like, you have to get people to like you before people will like you.
And it doesn't have to be back with fact.
Yeah. No,
it's just
like,
opinion.
Nobody's going to like our show until everybody likes our show or something like that, you know, or song or whatever, you know.
Yep.
I don't know.
Jay?
Anything else? I mean,
I think
that's about it.
I think we kind of got it.
We got it. All right. All right. Well, shouts to Lupe.
See you in the comments.
Yeah, this ain't hate, Lupe, man. It's just we can feel indifferent and not like you.
No,
you know
even when he commented on our stuff before, even though we got some stuff wrong, like he wasn't like crazy in the comments. He just like corrected it. He just, you know, so
shout out to him for doing that.
That was how many years ago? A couple?
Nah, it's been like 5 at least.
Yeah, it's been a few, but like here
6.
lately, he's been jumping in a lot of comments and going back and forth with people. So, and I ain't mad at him because honestly, you're doing some of these streamers and content creators a favor
hey man,
by doing that. Yeah.